Warning, this video contains spoilers for Class Series 1. You probably haven't seen Class, so I would recommend watching it without spoilers. Welcome to Defending the Despised, the series where I look at the most disliked things in the Doctor Who universe. But today is kind of different. Today we're talking about something nobody really seems to despise, it's just that nobody cares about it. With any franchise as successful as Doctor Who, there are bound to be spin-offs, whether that be books, audio plays, or TV shows. Most notably, Doctor Who has had 3 proper official spin-offs: Torchwood, The Sarah Jane Adventures, and Class. There were also the 2 K9 based spin-off shows, K9 and Company, and that horrific, monstrous, unlicensed Australian one that no, we don't talk about that one. But despite a solid cast, mature storytelling and themes, Class was a commercial failure and has pretty much been forgotten by fans. But does it really deserve this? After Series 9 finished airing in December 2015, there was a rare gap year for Doctor Who, meaning that there was no series during 2016, instead only a Christmas special. But alongside this, there was also a spin-off show, Class. Set in the newly renovated Coal Hill School, Class follows the efforts of 5 students and their teacher as they try to save the world from aliens coming through rifts in time and space. Because, well, it's set in the world of Doctor Who, what else are they gonna do? However, after just 8 episodes, Class was cancelled and now only lives on in books and Big Finish audio stories. During the Russell T Davies era, Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures were hugely successful, but the Moffat era Class was a huge failure in comparison, because, to put it bluntly, no one watched it. But why was it such an extreme flop? The answer is actually quite simple. The difference between Class and the other 2 spin-offs is that the Davies era spin-offs were heavily anchored to Doctor Who. Their protagonists were highly beloved characters first introduced in Doctor Who. Torchwood is anchored by Captain Jack Harkness, and Sarah Jane Adventures is anchored by, well, Sarah Jane Smith. It gives people a reason to care about the spin-offs because we care about the lead characters and we want to see more of them. Class didn't have this. Nobody was clamouring for a spin-off about that one school from the first ever episode, even if it was a central setting of Series 8. Its entire cast was brand new, with the opening episode relying on a short cameo by the Doctor to draw people in, but this clearly didn't work as he doesn't stick around. If, say, Clara Oswald had been the main character of Class after her departure from Doctor Who, it would probably have been a lot more successful, even though she isn't as well regarded as Captain Jack or Sarah Jane. It would make sense to have Clara as the lead of Class because she has that link to both shows. The key to having a good Doctor Who spin-off is having that clear link to the parent show. It's the main sticking point, but it would have also taken away everything that makes Class good. Despite its failure, Class is actually quite good. It's kind of like Power Rangers for Doctor Who. I mean, just look at the main villain. Slap him up against a mecha and 5 kids in brightly coloured suits and bang, you've got Power Rangers. Each episode even deals with the character and backstory of each member of the group, which is a trope of every single iteration of Power Rangers. You have the smart one, the kind one, the cool one, and the weird one, together with their alien leader. Class follows the typical Breakfast Club formula of having the main cast come together from all different social groups. But it makes sense here because they at least kind of knew each other before they properly come together as a group. It's not like they're all complete strangers, they have pre-existing relationships, albeit loose ones. They even address the cliche by having Ram refuse to be part of the group for half of the second episode, rather than suddenly being all buddy-buddy with them. Despite the cast being consistently brilliant, obviously some of the characters are better than others. The main highlight is Miss Quill, the nihilistic, apathetic teacher and leader of the group. Kind of. It's a weird situation. Catherine Kelly does a fantastic job in the reluctant anti-hero role. Quill is an alien terrorist forced into protecting the prince of the race she was at war with. She cannot harm him and she can't even use weapons against anyone else. It's such a fascinating and creative premise. She has no free will, she's forced to be a servant, a slave to atone for her crimes. She's basically an antagonist without being able to antagonize. It's the driving force of her character. Yet you end up feeling a strange sense of sympathy for her, despite her wanting to kill one of the main characters. She's tragically flawed and defiant, with episode 7 adding so much to her character and giving you a reason to care for her. It humanises her, which is weird when you think about it, because she's actually a giant bug alien that once again looks like something straight out of Power Rangers. Ram Singh is probably the other most interesting character in the show. After the first episode, he has to deal with the loss of his girlfriend and his leg, which derails his dream of becoming a footballer, the thing he is most passionate about. It's really interesting to see how he deals with this and his other struggles throughout the show. It's refreshing to have a male protagonist suffer from these kinds of emotions and PTSD, rather than pushing it all down and be tough. A big part of his journey is how he feels like he has to suppress these emotions and bottle things up inside. Class is very character heavy, it's the biggest strength. Each character grows so much throughout the series and you get a sense of how much this lifestyle can change people. One of the most interesting episodes is episode 6, called Detained. This bottle episode isolates the cast in a classroom adrift in a void with a meteor, and for some reason they find themselves all angry. They have to work out what the meteor is if they want to find a way out. There are similarities to Doctor Who's Midnight, with the claustrophobia causing tensions to flare in an interesting and well thought out way. Whenever each character picks up the meteor, it forces them to tell the truth to whatever question they are asked, which leads to some great interactions and confessions, which shake the very dynamics of the group. There's a tense atmosphere throughout as the plot unfolds. It's completely different from the other episodes, there is such a tonal shift, and it's refreshing. The episode is all about guilt, it's the overall theme, with them all needing to confess, as the prison feeds off of their guilt and tries turning them against each other. It exposes all of their worst characteristics, cementing them as morally grey characters, just like Quill, which in turn helps you empathise with her. It shows just how deeply flawed each and every one of them is, rather than being normal, moral protagonists. The events of the episode aren't forgotten by the characters either, as they end the episode shattered and divided. It has a knock-on effect and sticks with all the characters, with a direct impact on the finale, as it takes until the climax of the finale for them all to be in the same room again.
I'm gone!
Aren't you going to go after him?
No.
But if the rock was making us
I
angry, then...
understand when you get a boyfriend.
And there it is!
Class manages to use high-concept storytelling and heavier issues without stumbling over them and patting itself on the back. Two of the main characters are gay, and the show just shrugs it off like, yeah, they're gay, so what? The casually diverse cast is extremely talented and you feel deeply invested in them, even though there are only 8 episodes. Every one of these episodes carries a significant cost to the characters. Their friends and family are constantly under threat and you feel that undercurrent throughout. No one is safe, and even if they survive physically, they all end up with some kind of emotional scarring from what they've seen and done. It's a rare display of long-term consequences in a TV universe that never shows them, because the Doctor always flies away to the next adventure and all is forgotten. With Class, however, they linger on these consequences and you see how it changes our protagonists. Class is a completely different style of spin-off compared to Torchwood and Sarah Jane Adventures, and I think that's a good thing because it stands out in its own way. It's very much inspired by Buffy the Vampire Slayer with a similar style and energy. It's actually a shame that it had to get cancelled because it's really good. Unlike Doctor Who, Class had one central writer, Patrick Ness, which actually works wonders because there is a significant consistency with all of the characters and storylines. It is able to tell one long story arc across 8 episodes, without needing to sacrifice character growth and storytelling like Doctor Who often needs to because of its anthology-based episode structure. It's a lot like a Netflix show, and that's the perfect vehicle for it. This video was originally going to be all about how not to make a Doctor Who spin-off, but I was proven completely wrong when I actually watched Class. Its dark tone defines it and sets it apart from the traditional sci-fi of the Doctor Who universe. It's never really about the aliens or the monsters, it's about real world issues like losing loved ones and the loss of childhood. Class is the spin-off no one asked for, and that's why it suffered. It always struggled to find an audience. It spun off from Doctor Who, which is primarily aimed at children, but Class is a dark and edgy teen drama, which would have taken America by storm in the early 2000s. It just never found an audience, even in a year where there was no Doctor Who to watch. The lack of an anchoring, recurring character definitely didn't help, because it didn't have that link to Doctor Who. There were also no familiar monsters from the Doctor Who universe until a teaser scene right at the end. It's honestly such a shame that Class never got enough of an audience to keep going, because it had so much potential. A second series could have made it exactly what it had the potential to be, but the BBC never wanted to take that risk. In fact, the BBC pretty much doomed it from the start, dumping episodes on iPlayer at 10 AM on a Saturday and then putting the show on BBC One months later in a graveyard slot. The BBC needed to treat the show better because it's exactly the kind of Doctor Who spin-off we need. It opens up so many new ways to portray the wider world of Doctor Who, in creative styles compared to the parent show. It's so different to Doctor Who and the other spin-offs because it tries to be something completely new and unique. Class, much like most other things from Doctor Who, has found a new home on Big Finish. But as someone who doesn't really do the whole audio only thing, it makes me sad that we'll never see more Class. And that's a sentence I never thought I'd say. I guess it really is a new year.